So here's the agenda of what I want to share from you. And this first bullet is where I'll make up some time here. I wanted to give you a basis to compare your district's loss experience with, a benchmark. So we'll cover a little bit about the loss trends, workers' comp loss trends. I want to give you an update of OSHA. I want to talk a little bit about workers' compensation and how what you do from a safety and risk management perspective could impact your premium of your program. Story time, I want to share 2 stories about some districts that we work with. And the last part is what I really want to share with you is the innovative safety. And these are some projects we worked on with some of our school districts. So I'll get through the first couple parts relatively quickly, and I'd rather spend some more time on the innovative safety and show you what we have going on from that perspective. To give you a benchmark and basis of comparison for your school districts, I took our company's policy information, rather than take national data trends that you could find online. I wanted something, a little smaller data set here to take a look at. So I took a 3-year loss history. It included 267 different policies with $67 million in premium, and I analyzed 4,700 claims. So not a small data set, but not a very big one either. And I think what you'll find, whether you review the national trends or even smaller data sets, the findings will be pretty similar here. And so what the findings were, let's see, there we go. Slips and falls. I think we heard a little bit about slips and falls with Jake's first presentation here with the facilities folks. But no matter the data set we look at, 1/3 of claims are going to be slips, trips, and falls. Okay? Coming in at second, 22% combative types of injuries. Those are your kicks, bites, through something and somebody got injured. An average loss ratio for this premium and these claims with these policies, 42%. This is a healthy book of business. This is maintaining an underwriter profit for the insurance carrier. The only reason I mention that to you is because where you could come and compare your district's loss data to is this last metric here. And that last metric is number of claims per $100,000 of payroll. And I'll save some time and not explain the calculation on that. But what this does is gives you an apples to apples comparison of how your district is performing, and you could compare it to this healthy book of business at 0.6. So what this means, if you have $10 million in district-wide payroll, we could reasonably expect that there will be 6 claims on your workers' comp policy. So that's what this number will tell you. So you could go up or down from there depending on how much payroll you have in your district. Okay? And so the pie chart's telling us the same thing. We're looking at a little bit of a bigger number of policies years. So we're looking at 5 policy years from 2010 to 2014. Any of the data metrics or data sets that I looked at, whether we looked at a 15-year span, a 5-year span, if I went back to 1980 and looked at a 20-year or 30-year span, slips, trips, and falls have consistently come in the 30% range. Some years 31, 34, 37, 33. The reason I bring this to your attention is this is a reoccurring theme. We've heard this with Jake's presentation. If you're going to do one thing to move your risk management program forward, here's where you start right here. Slips, trips, and falls. Okay? From a severity standpoint, out of the policies in this data set, these claims accounted for 50% of the premium. The average claim cost here for these slip, trip, and fall claims was $8,500. And so if we compare those to other loss sources, it's at least double. It's very, very expensive in the slips and falls. Again, just reinforcing, here's a good place to start from your risk management program. Don't stare at this too long because it'll hypnotize you. It's very, very busy. But let me show you this. January and February are our highest percentages of claims frequency. Why? Snow and ice, right? And so we see an increase in these months in the slips, trips, and falls. So something to be aware of. If you want to get even more specific with your slip, trip, and fall prevention, look at your snow and ice programs and your awareness programs during these months. Okay? So let's talk briefly about OSHA. There's federal OSHA, and some states have a state-approved program. What do we have here in Illinois? Not everyone at once. What do we have here in Illinois, or you don't know? Okay, so these are the regulations that you need to follow in your district. The state of Illinois is a little screwy in the fact that we have a state program, but it's specific for public employees, okay? And school districts are considered part of that. So the regulations that your district needs to follow are on a state program. The state of Illinois' program does not differ from the federal program, with the exception of if you have a fatality, an inpatient hospitalization, loss of eye, or amputation, you call state OSHA, not the federal OSHA. Other than that, they adopt all the guidelines of the federal OSHA. Okay? And here's their website for your reference if you want to get more information on that. So what's new with OSHA? OSHA updated, Jake touched upon it during his presentation, the globally harmonized system. That dates back to 2016 with a final compliance date of 2016. So if you have not provided updated training, which was required back in 2013 for all of your folks, whether it's your facilities folks, custodians, on the use of chemicals, you need to update your training for them. There's a new silica rule that went into effect in 2016, and the compliance date for that is in 2018. So that may be applicable to your district, and it may not. If your facility folks would drill or grind sidewalks to level them out, or if they're in any summer projects for build-outs, that may be applicable to you. So something to be aware of, that there are some new compliance initiatives coming out of that. What you may have heard about from an OSHA update standpoint in recent months is the electronic reporting. Are you guys familiar with the new rules, or have you at least heard of the new rules for electronic reporting? This is where OSHA is asking employers to electronically report your injury and illness data to them once a year. Is this all new for you guys, or are you guys somewhat familiar with this? Okay, so fairly new for the group. Here's some really good news, and I'm sure you did not think I was going to say good news along with OSHA. Okay, the state of Illinois' OSHA plan did not adopt this new rule, so if you hear about electronic reporting this year, it is not applicable to school districts, okay? So there's no need for you to report electronically. Back in 2015, OSHA updated their reporting, where you actually physically have to call OSHA to report a fatality, inpatient hospitalization, amputation, or a loss of an eye. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about workers' compensation, but let's talk about one thing in particular, and this as a topic in and of itself is something that we could spend a significant amount of time. I will give you the high level, and I'll give you the high level specifically on return to work. How many of your districts have a policy to always provide light duty for your injured employees? Okay, I see some heads shaking, some. Okay, why do you guys do that? Say that out loud.
I want them there.
Oh, you want them there. You want to keep your eye on them. You want to be able to manage that process. Good. What else? Okay. Here are some of the benefits. This is the one time in the workers' comp system where it's a win for all parties involved. The employer wins, the employee wins, and the insurance carrier wins. Okay? How the employer wins is in the state of Illinois, we're known as a 70-30 state. So when you provide light duty, you realize a 70% discount in that overall claim costs when your experience modification rating is calculated. So a $10,000 claim goes into that calculation as $3,000. So when you say, I'm paying somebody extra to come in and perform this light duty in the office or whatever other task that you develop for them, and it's costing us. You save on the back end with your experience mod when that multiplier is applied to your manual premium. I may be losing some of you. I assumed everybody familiar with an experience mod, the multiplier for your premium? Most of them are.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. But we also see statistically incidents of attorney involvement with those claims when employees return to work goes down greatly. When you watch daytime TV, what's every other commercial? It's an attorney commercial, okay? Recovery times, sprained ankle, somebody sits at home, sprained ankle, somebody stays engaged in the workplace, they're still getting up at 6 in the morning, they're still commuting to work, they're showing up on time. We see recovery times for the same type of injury. The person recovers faster when we keep them engaged in the workplace. And then this may or may not be applicable to your districts, but there is no potential lapse in benefits. Maybe this is more on the private side, when somebody sits at home who's paying for benefits, who's contributing to retirement, so there may be some issues with that too. I put this one in here, and I'll just cover it briefly. The comment I'll make on catching an underwriter's eye, I would say this is the one opportunity if you meet with your underwriter, a claims person or somebody in a risk management capacity, this is the opportunity for you to brag to them about your safety program and what initiatives you have from your perspective, because it does not go unnoticed. That information is used to develop the premium, and there can be some significant cost savings for some robust safety programs that are in place there. So don't be afraid to brag about what you have in place. Invite your contacts from your carrier into your district and have them learn a little bit more about what you guys have going on. Catching an underwriter's eye in a negative capacity as far as athletic participation. This is something where we see some very, very significant types of injuries, and mainly it's when coaches are involved in wrestling, and they'll go and wrestle the best kid in the class. We've blown knees, blown shoulders, specific policies on restriction of that. And we're not saying don't engage with the students, it's part of the coaching experience, but there is a difference between demonstrating technique and being full-blown involved in that sporting activity there. So policies surrounding that, restricting the type of activity that coaches can take part in, or some of the elementary schools that have end-of-the-year picnics with the jump houses. One of our biggest claims was a parent went into the jump house with the student, was jumping with them and blew out her knee. So policies restricting that type of activity go a long way for your policies. We talk a little bit scope of exposures. Do you take part in a special education cooperative, or is that within the district? Do you contract your food service? Do you contract your transportation services? And so make sure that your carrier is aware of what's in-house within the district and what you're contracting. So I'll share with you a little bit story time. One good story and one success story and one unfortunate event that happened here. This one just happened this last winter. A school district up in the Chicagoland area was performing evening door checks about 8 o'clock at night, was closing up the school for the evening, ready to go home. Walked out to one of the side entrances, slipped on ice, hit his head, resulting in a $275,000 claim. Fortunately for him, so he was found unconscious with his eyes open, staring up at the sky. This was one of the Chicago nights where it was 28 below. Fortunately for him, he had a coworker with him, noticed he was gone, ended up finding him, transported to a hospital, and then flown to a trauma unit for brain damage and some trauma to his brain. So not much in place from a safety perspective here, but guess who's got one of the most robust safety programs now? Guess who has a buddy system in place? Guess who provided all their maintenance people with snow and ice cleats? Guess who's training everybody? So some good came out of an unfortunate event, but this was certainly avoidable here. We were in a melt refreeze cycle, and there was some black ice on the sidewalk, and so unfortunately turned around, slipped and fell. Fortunately for him, coworker was with him. Otherwise, I don't think he was going to make it till the next morning. One of our other schools, Middleton Cross Area School District, analyzed their data, saw that slips and falls are one of their leading loss drivers. And they really took that to heart and developed a lot of training, a lot of safety literature for their employees. And I won't go through everything that they did, but I think the results were impressive here. They had a 62% reduction in claim frequency, but an 87% severity reduction. They all but eliminated their insured workers' comp costs from them. And here's a link that's in the presentation that'll provide you some more detail on that success. Here is what I was most interested in sharing with you are some school district specific campaigns that some of our consultants worked on with our other policy holders. The first one, the red card, green card, slip, trip, and fall campaign. I'll explain a little bit of what that was. So again, a school district identified slips, trips, and falls as their leading loss driver. Not only that, but they noticed that the transition from parking lot to school, and not necessarily during the winter months, was the biggest cause of these. Footwear or holes, depressions, steps during that transition. So to raise awareness for this fact, they partnered with their PTO. They got the student organization involved, and they developed a red card, green card, slip, trip, and fall campaign. So what they did, Developed red cards, had a stack of them. Green cards, had a stack of them. As staff came into the building for the day, if they wore proper footwear, they got a green card. On there it said, thank you for helping us maintain safety within the district. Fill out your name for a raffle, and then they had the students handing out hot chocolate to them as they walked in. Those that came in with inappropriate footwear had the red card. In it, it gave them tips on appropriate footwear, asked them to join us for hot chocolate, and that was a really good campaign. It got students involved, got the PTO involved, and it was a big success for them to get the staff to wear appropriate footwear. So I think this next one, Mike, if you could click that top link, we'll watch this. This video is only 30 or 40 seconds long, but this is one of my favorite accomplishments with this school district. So again, this idea came through a data review, and it kind of evolved from what it initially was. So the cool thing about this was it engaged all the staff. They loved seeing the students involved in this process, but also within this process, the students had a great educational experience editing, taking the video, and they were involved in behind the scenes. And so this has evolved now within this district into a Meet the Teacher series where they're doing 30-second clips on meeting the teachers and doing a different one each month, and other safety topics too. So this was a really cool success story as well. We'll go to the second one. This next one, remember the mannequin craze on the internet where LeBron and everybody was involved and you just stand still and hold your pose? Oh, sorry, different one. Okay. So I got ahead of myself. That was the next link. That's okay. You leave it on this one. So here's a couple different awareness videos that I wanted to share with you. These are available on the public side of our website, and so if you want some resources, if you don't have the time to get into producing your own videos, we've produced a few. They're quick hits, they're fun, they're engaging, and they get a message across. Right, and sometimes the message is as simple as that. Don't take shortcuts. And then to accompany these, there are some literature, and those are also available on our website. And we don't need to go through the other ones, but Walk Like a Penguin is one, Don't Be a Clown, and it has the clown on there with huge feet and spread salt. So there's a couple different ones that will be coming out with a new series of these videos prior to this winter here too. So those are on the public side of our website. So if you're looking for a quick hit resource, here's a good place to start. So this next one is the mannequin craze that we worked on with one of our technical colleges up in Wisconsin. And so I thought this was fun. The mannequin thing was hip at the time. So I thought it was important to share some of the out-of-the-box projects that some other districts had some good success with too, to kind of cultivate some ideas within your district. That's what I had. Any questions at all? Then I'll leave you all, for those of you that are golfing, with a piece of advice that was given to me, who is a subpar golfer. 100% of the putts that don't make it to the hole don't go in. So thank you for your time.